The sun clings to life. A dark matter growth. I think the implication here is that the sun has a cancerous tumor developing that threatens humanity's continued existence. But I digress. It's hard sci-fi mixed with transcendent observations on humanity. A brilliant movie a lot of people slept on. And I think it's hard not to see some of the tentpoles of my show really starting with this movie on an episode from, let me just check real quick. Let me just look up the day real quick. April 4th, 25th. Jesus Christ! I was playing around with doing a video essay where I went into the full poetry of the film, so to speak. So on this 10-year anniversary of that episode, we go back to The Sun. A film about light and dark, the material, physical existence between the two. Can you feel the sunshine? Yes, in your bones. You see, it's a metaphor!
So, you got detention.
Okay, for real. Sunshine is a 2007 film written by Alex Garland, yes, that one. Jumping in with director Danny Boyle, yes, that one, for a hot new sci-fi film that is science fiction to the hardest eights, a beautiful and moving visual poem about what people will give to save existence. Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong, went wrong 10 minutes ago. Okay, for real, when 20th Century Fox hears the pitch for this film for the first time in 2004, they are not amused by the prospect. Studio executives love to say no if they can point to something vaguely similar if you squint your eyes just right. Steven Soderbergh's Solaris was a disaster for them the previous year to the tune of about $20 million in losses, to be as charitable as possible. Okay, for real. Sunshine is a financial failure for the studio in exactly the same way for roughly the same stack of cash. The two films also bow critically in much the same way where obfuscation and ambiguity played into the mixed feelings from the audience and critics. How could it be both Nightmare in Space movie but also be a Nightmare in Space? But different and stuff. Okay, for real. Can we talk about the casting in this movie, please? It is perfection. Not enough? I can go one deeper. But did you know? 20th Century Fox didn't buy Cillian Murphy as a physicist. The guy from Not Another Teen Movie as an engineer with an armed services background was fine. But Cillian is a tough sell as a physicist. Boyle as much as echoed this fear while trying to pull this off. Sometimes you just see it, I guess. This is a movie about shooting Oppenheimer into space to nuke the dead part of the sun back to life. Somehow this wasn't clairvoyantly the tagline for this movie. That's what this movie is. Go see it. The sun is dying, but egos are here to stay. Michelle Yeoh, Rose Byrne, Cliff Curtis, Hiroyuki Sanada, Benedict frickin' Wong, Chris Evans, Cillian Murphy, and Mark Strong. They all absolutely nail it. 100, no notes, wow, Sunshine, one for the ages. This production is exhausting for Danny Boyle. Part of him wanted to go through the production cycle of a science fiction film, and doing so enshrined in him forever that he never wanted to do this again. And as a director, he didn't. So, mission accomplished. One and done. Ba-bam! Okay, for real, Sunshine is Danny Boyle's first film since 28 Days Later, also with Cillian Murphy, also with Alex Garland. Sunshine itself opens up just over a month after the zombie film sequel 28 Weeks Later, and in June of this year, 2025, the sequel to that film will come out 28 years later. The band is back for this one. Let's go. We're all old. Wait, yeah, I think we all actually aged while I was reading that sentence, so really I should probably just move on. Okay, for real. This is a film about dark matter eating part of our most valued and only star, thoughts and prayers. The sun is dying because that's poetic. Life, death, freezing, burning, it's all the same. Take the most poetic aspects of humanity and write scientists on the edge of extinction. Okay, for real, light has physical, material existence. Vacuums do not. Sunlight as addictive substance. I need that vitamin D, my boys. This is a movie where serious people have serious discussions, specifically not debates, as they know depending on the conversation, their knowledge and opinions will be weighted differently. Sacrifice isn't always volunteered in this movie. It is put upon people because that is the best possible decision one could make with the available information. Okay, for real, my favorite movies are generally a wild collection of films that people have tried before in entirely new ways. I am the first person in any conversation to say that practical effects look better, and I think this movie is kind of the fun exception to the rule. This entire film was shot on a soundstage, and everything outside of the ship is entirely CGI. It's kind of mind-boggling that a film from 2007 has better special effects than most movies now, but hey, it is what it is. The movie was only $40 million to make, by the way. I'll just let that one hang in the air. Okay, for real, a movie about the recklessness of existence, the arbitrary fragility of it, but also the resilience of our desire to survive. The movie about trying to save the galaxy with science and ultimately becoming a slasher film. The sunbather god devil doomed us all because he OD'd on turbo sunlight and became Jason Voorhees. Okay? For real. Even the smartest people in the world can't see the whole picture all the time. A movie about humanity, our shortcomings, our desires, and our death. Okay, for real. Sunshine is a movie composed of impossible choices and impossible photography. I read a lot of interviews from Danny Boyle at the time of this film's release. A few things stood out to me, and they are telling for what kind of world this was when this movie came out. 2007 was a rough year for science fiction cinema. I mean real rough. I'm gonna quote the interviewer's question here, but hot damn, what a world you were walking into in 2007. Question: why did you add in the radiation-scarred, insane mad killer Pinbacker character? Dude just straight up like, hi, hello, allow me to litigate the ending of your film in the press junket? Bye! This is the PR tour. This interview came out the day before the movie did. Just so everyone understands how unhinged film writing was in the 2000s. His answer to this is long and detailed, but one part in particular caught my interest. You have to represent that in some way, and we represented that with Pinbacker, this guardian at the gates of heaven or hell. Whatever you want to call it, he stands there as the guardian at the gateway. And let me tell you, when I found that one, I was pretty upset that I didn't find that the first time I made a Sunshine video. Holy crap. He just tweeted it. He just said the thing. Sorry, poetry, pack your shit. I am saying that this was not particularly the climate for this hardcore science banger that goes full Ziggy Stardust in the final act. A purposeful move on Boyle's part. This isn't a debate. This is the surface of the sun. Okay, he thought, let's give you something you can't debate with science and thoughty thoughts. How about now? I'm gonna make a whole movie about that. A film about something where the fundamental value of anyone on the crew's life is personally volunteered as expendable. Except for you, Harvey, sit down. You're not utilitarian enough for military science, bitch! Here is as literal a descriptor of the plot as best I can summon. The sun begins to collapse in a vaguely described and not entirely important way. Don't think about it. They have to nuke the sun. They have to nuke the sun because the last crew that tried to nuke the sun went off the grid, so no one knows what happened to them except they didn't accomplish their mission of reigniting the sun. Humans are more cold under black hole sun. Black hole sun! Humans then crew another ship, the Icarus II, because Nuke the Sun is very 2000 cinema. America unquestionably invented the nuclear weapon. Black hole sun! So easy to solve all of our cinematic problems. You understand. They lose systems one by one. When it's the oxygen supply, you know that there's going to be a lot of short straws. This mission was already impossible, and they only have to go in a straight line. Well, until they alter course based on the hypothetical to gain a second universe-altering nuclear device. This is the decision that dooms us all. They were all short straws. This is a mission crewed by Kaneda, the ship's captain who is responsible for assuring the mission completes and the payload nuke is delivered. Not that he is in power over the entire crew, because he isn't. They're scientists. He flies a boat. Trey is the navigator of this mission, a kid rushed into service, and I'm sure nothing will go wrong. Harvey is technically the communications director. I think the second in command on the ship. His being the communications officer is hilarious. It is the one thing he is absolutely dog shit at doing. Mace is the ship's engineer and crew member with military background. He accepts that the mission will have losses, which includes accepting his own death. A doctor and psychologist, Searle, who pretty much stops taking care of his own physical and mental well-being. There's a botanist on board for the continued breathing of everyone on board through an oxygen system. Corazon's miraculous plant is one of the only survivors, which leaves, well, until it gets nuked. I don't think plants are good in nukes. Which leaves our nuclear physicist, Kappa, the one who needs to know the impossible math of the mission, but really knows little about how other humans even interact or get along. He takes other people's time without their permission, time they literally cannot get back, and I'm not convinced this is a thing he cares about. This crew is a beautiful assembly of imperfect scientists trying mostly to accomplish the same goal.
Does the risk of a detour outweigh the benefits of an extra payload?
We'll have a vote.
No, we won't. We're not a democracy. We're a collection of astronauts and scientists, so we're gonna make the most informed decision available to us.
What is leadership in an unprecedented existence-leveling situation? No one knows what they're doing. There is no correct answer when the decisions are weighting human life against existence. You are literally alone, together, with the weight of the universe on your shoulders. No pressure.
We're delivering that payload because that star is dying, and if it dies, we die. Everything dies. So that is our mission. There is nothing, literally, nothing more important than completing our mission. End of story.
Every setback seems to add an additional failure that compounds their existing problem. A crude mission to save the Earth. For real this time. Sunshine has always made me giggle because they made a gigantic parasol and glided off toward the sun. So they bring this stellar bomb, a payload to reignite the sun and warm the Earth once more. We experience our one moment of astonishment when the crew passes between Mercury and the sun. Every scientist in the room takes it in for the reminder that nothing you're doing is going to be easy or particularly make sense at the time. Here is, of course, where we take a turn. The crew also intercepts a distress call from the other ship, which is where the bottomless willingness of humanity to gamble for a better outcome blows up their spot. They decide to change their routes and link up with the Icarus 1 in an effort to get the other nuke to launch into the sun. 2 bombs. Real science. This leads to an infinitesimal but fatal miscalculation by the ship's pilot, Troy. When you're in an unprecedented situation, be perfect all the time. Kind of a Hail Mary, but that's not an optimal time to miscalculate. Undemocratically, the decision is made to spend the 2 most expendable people at the moment, the captain and the nuclear physicist. The captain does not come back from this mission. Simultaneously to this, catastrophically, they end up burning their entire oxygen garden, communications array, and whatever air reserves they still had. Now it's a space movie because it's all hypotheticals and short straws. Literally, they got in the boat in an attempt to save the world, but they ended up fighting the devil or God, if your interpretations are nasty. You could also interpret that the lack of oxygen our main characters are going through might lead to them seeing some strange things, so honestly, you could still read this movie as super hard sci-fi. Basically, Sunshine is this. On some level, Garland and Boyle just love the third act freakout. If I were designing a movie where the crew of the Icarus 2 flew to the sun to bomb it back to safety, I too would ensure that my main character ends the movie flying across the surface of the sun. I would literally backward plan to ensure that moment in my movie. Dramatic irony fit for a god. Going on the mission was the short straw. Which does remind me, I have one more question. Sunshine is a 2007 science fiction banger written by Alex Garland. Previously to this, he wrote the movie The Beach based on his own novel, which Danny Boyle also directed. They have and will hopefully always have a professional relationship that I think is quite rewarding to cinema. Also, they're weird. A movie directly about the spirit of humanity to overcome all, the knowledge of everyone on board that they were the backup plan. The nerves were frayed before they got on the boat. This is an entire movie of conversations that overcomplicate the obvious. We were sent to save the galaxy, but not to save ourselves. I found, interestingly, most of the deaths in this film are people volunteering their lives to preserve the mission. Even the main character, in fact, it's really only the botanist that's a victim of Pinbacker. This is the section I get to bloviate endlessly about the poetic nonsense of space. I love it. In this section, I get to be me, in the candied land of symbolism. A genre of movie Danny Boyle always wanted to make to just see if he could do it. Something he would never attempt again. It was always kind of difficult to argue that Garland and Boyle had prepared their audiences for the, third act freakout. This was a moment in time. In 2007, the iPhone released, Google bought YouTube, and then humanity started doing this thing called fracking. I'm saying it made sense for disaster movies to look outside of naturally occurring disasters to find ways to endanger humans on the planetary scale. What if the sun died? We didn't break the sun. It broke itself. It wasn't our fault. How young we were back then. The reality is, I want to make a horror movie about what the sun is a brilliant 9 billion pronged premise. Hey, sometimes you put too many things in the cocktail. Hard sci-fi horror, human drama about really serious math, existentialism. The Sun is so many things, a mathematical conundrum, an argument about the truth of the unknowable. Prepare for the unexpected. Hey, what if the Sun was like God and stuff, but also, what if he was the devil? Cheetos! A movie where people were trying to figure out what the movie needed and didn't know what they didn't need even as they were cutting it together. There was a planet of feedback in test screenings that Kappa and Cassie do have chemistry together. Readable, endearing, empathetic chemistry. Upon release, the moviegoers correctly agreed. It's kind of the end-all be-all of the Hollywood mega movie, but how do we fit a love story into this movie? Have a spark, but this is not a movie where casually having an innocent moment in the cornfield at the end of the world, it doesn't work. This is well documented too. They straight up just removed it from the movie because it set the entire plot on fire. For no reason. Super Devil Meets Man made it through to test audiences, but the love scene didn't. Movies, man! And for the record, I agree with cutting this. It is insane. It's just, it's funny to think what makes it through and what doesn't. I am super in love with this hard science fiction film, putting all these rules into the ground and then throwing the chessboard at the end with pure metaphor. I also see why that is the ultimate troll to a lot of people. Wait, did humanity survive because the irradiated Sun Devil goes full Voorhees? Yeah. Yup. We always think this time it will go right. I think everyone could use a particularly nice day right now. It's increasingly difficult to talk about anything escapist entertainment in nature. Disaster movies about climate change kinda don't hit the same. The Sun just gave up on this movie and honestly, I feel you, girl. Yeah. The characters in this movie all died to give people on Earth a slightly better experience for whatever amount of time they have left. I'm not sure it ever left me that whatever they nuked into the sun is pretty hella temporary. Maybe all the people in the movie died to give the people on Earth one nice day before everything freezes. A movie literally about feeling the sunshine. I wanted to revisit this movie after 10 years because I honestly still think about this movie all the time. The photography in Sunshine is as all-time as it gets, and half of it isn't even real. I honestly think that I make episodes based on a belief that stories about the entertainment we consume are overlooked. We just head out to the content tree and grab another Beast Games. Sunshine is ultimately a movie about teamwork, a team that has some personality conflicts. They're all from different backgrounds. They're all on the Icarus with differing ideas about what it even is they're saving. None of the experts on the ship were the first picks in any of their fields. Sunshine is about the B team. The backup plan, the underdogs. Imagine this, the first crew to try and re-up the Sun probably got the wildest, biggest send-off. Not so much for the second one. Everyone's hope was drained 5 years before that. Kind of a haunting sentence to say out loud in 2025. Okay. For real, I'm ride or die for Sunshine. 14 years ago this movie releases, and I'm still out here saying to look harder at art you might have skipped in Nick and Nora's infinite content list. Danny Boyle and Alex Garland went on to have wild and fairly disparate careers that I absolutely still follow closely because of this movie. And I think at the end of the day, when you break it all down, Sunshine is a movie about imperfect, sometimes shitty people who believe in more than their shitty existence. Kinda profound.